From Tally to Cali.
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by
Vitamin Energy. The vitamins.
The energy.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! It's Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. Coming up on today's show, how to manage the quarterbacks against Miami. We get a breakdown of the Hurricanes from Matt Shodell of Cane Sport. They're a little bit nervous, maybe? And Corey's on the hot seat. We've got nothing but trivia questions, Florida State, Miami lore. We'll see how the Coracle can do. Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy, vitaminenergy.com. Award-winning, clinically proven. It's got all sorts of banners on the packaging because it's awesome. C-Store Decisions, that's Convenience Store Decisions. That's an industry mag. Named Vitamin Energy one of the hot new products of 2024 and 2023 as the Convenience Store News. The stuff sells because it works. But these people are paying full retail, Corey. They're walking into the shop. They're paying full freight. You folks at home, go to vitaminenergy.com. Use the promo code WarChampBOGO. You'll buy one, get one free. Who's winning now? Choose your bundles, everybody. Go on there. Look at all the different shots they've got, the variety packs. Immune Plus, the Focus Plus, B12, Workout Plus, Mood Plus, Hydration, Burner Plus, Vitamin D Plus, and the 8-Hour Energy. You'll find something you like. I can almost guarantee you of it. Warchant.com, Ultimate Seminoles Sports Source. FSU won 2 months, $1. Lead writer, senior writer for Warchant.com's Corey Clark, joining us fresh off of his, is it maiden voyage as a bingo MC, bingo host? Or have you done this before? Did you do it before?
Well, I've never done bingo.
Oh, I'm sorry, trivia. Golly, I'm sorry.
It's okay, buddy. Hey, look, nothing wrong with bingo hosts. I got mad respect for them. It was my second time hosting trivia.
Okay.
And we're recording this before it actually went down, but I assume it went down great. You want to hear the
I like the confidence.
You want to hear the round of 2024 football questions? We had a whole round. We get 6 rounds. One of them I made about 2024 Florida State football.
Oh, boy.
Mainly just to hear the groan as soon as it popped up on the screen. But one of them, well, everybody listening to this is going to know. You're going to know them all. Within one, how many touchdowns has Florida State scored this year?
10.
Well, you're right. It's 11. The offense has scored 10. The whole team has 11. Mastromanno, you know what country he's from.
Right, New Zealand.
The only team,
Australia,
the only team to beat Florida State. Or sorry, the only team to lose to Florida State.
Cal,
yep. Going on his yearly salary in 2024, what has Mike Norvell been paid for each win this season?
$10 million.
There you go. It's actually like $9.875 million.
Okay.
But we round up.
I like it.
And then here's the one, Aslan, I want to see if you can get. This was I'm going ahead to assume it's the one that tripped up most people unless they were cheating. Florida State brought in a transfer quarterback from Oregon State that did not end up doing well. Spell his last name.
Oh, I got this one. UIAGALELEI.
Yeah, all right. Good job, Aslan.
Yeah, I got it.
You nailed it.
Because that's how I look at it. Like I broke it down like it's UIA like UGA, but there's no G and there's like UIA and then it's GA and then it's LELEI, like Layla or Lily or something like that. So
okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right, well, good job. So you would have run it. You would have run run the category. Well done.
We'll see how you do at the end of the show. We've got Stump the Coracle. I've got a plethora of Florida State Miami rivalry questions. Corey has not been vetted on any of this at all. I spent most of my day on Tuesday, an off day. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate you. On Nole Fan. Shout out to our guys over at Nole Fan. Just an incredible resource. Just underscores just how passionate this fan base is that somebody's out there doing this. And they've got a name. His name escapes me right now, even though I've been staring at his website all day today.
Bob Perrone?
Bob Perrone, right? There we go. Yeah.
Or Perrone. I think it's Perrone, but great site. Invaluable resource, honestly.
Andrew Brady also, I think, helps out too, so I want to give him a tip of the cap as well. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. I wanted to do superlatives like most rushing yards in rivalry history, but then that would have taken me going through every single box score and cross-referencing it. So I kind of maybe cut some corners, but I think it'll be relatively exciting. So we got that in the final segment. Look at the show notes, by the way. We got Matt Shodell on the show, and it went really long. He speaks, his answers are very long. So if you don't want to hear a guy boast about Miami for 28 minutes, look in the show notes. You can skip ahead and go to the end of the show where we'll have Corey on the hot seat answering questions about the Florida State-Miami rivalry. All right, Corey, loved headlines. Thought it was very balanced. Lots of criticism, but yet rational, level-headed thinking. So that was cool to hear.
Did you hear him talk me out of my man at Pitt?
Yeah, I'm sad about that.
But I agree. I get it. I didn't know the UNLV guy had such a history and was doing so well.
Yeah.
That now I'm on board with him.
Feels like
the
that
UNLV
guy.
OC.
Feels like that guy might be a head coach though, but maybe that's too early of a jump. But yeah,
I feel like I don't know what kind of head coach what job you're going to get head coaching wise, jumping from the OC as the UNLV offensive coordinator. But being the Florida State offensive coordinator, I feel like you can make that jump pretty quickly. I mean, Dillingham was here for 2 years, didn't even do great, and now he's the head coach at Arizona State. I don't know that you make that same kind of quick jump if you just if you're from the offensive coordinator at UNLV.
Yeah,
that's my pitch.
Right. Yeah, I guess that loss to Syracuse kind of knocked them out of being a playoff spoiler. But it's like, yeah, I mean, if UNLV somehow snuck into the playoffs, that probably ups your profile. But point taken. Yeah, and I guess somebody else was telling me too on the Bird app. They're like, chill out with the dude from Pitt. He barely beat Cal. I was like, all right, point taken. But
well, I mean, they're allowed to have bad games, right, gang?
Yeah,
Come on
averages,
now.
averages,
yeah.
Averages. Everybody. All right, Corey. So don't want to. It's football season, so it's not forcing the football. But as we sit here and think about this upcoming game against Miami, obviously not a lot of optimism for the outcome. Matt Shodell though is like kind of a little bit apprehensive. He's just like, it's a rivalry game. I'm like, I just don't. It doesn't apply in this sort of case.
We know it doesn't apply.
Yeah, it's kind of like the 13 game against Florida. Although they gave a little bit of a scare for quarter and a half or whatever it was, but not a scare, but just it was like, all right, they're not going to roll over, but then they eventually kind of rolled over. I know we keep talking about the quarterbacks and stuff, but is that ultimately what you want to see? Is just one of these guys go out there and kind of start taking a leg up over the other? Because I don't know, at this point right now, I think we assume based on what Alex Atkins said on Sunday when they had the press conference that Brock's going to be the first guy out there against Miami. And I think that's a smart thing too. And I feel bad saying this in a certain way. Brock is like a sacrificial lamb. I don't think they want to damage Luke so early in his career. Alex Atkins was talking about that when he was asked about Lucas Simmons. Like, y'all talk about damaging quarterbacks. Same thing applies for left tackle. So he seems to be aware of what bad games can do to developing players. I'm sure Mike thinks the same thing about his quarterback. So is this a game where you anticipate Luke coming in and then maybe this could be a moment where he really does show that he is superior to Brock? Or do you hope that Brock does enough to where you don't even need to see Luke in this game? Or is that just not a non-starter, not having Luke Kromenhoek get in a football game from here on out?
No, I mean, it's not a non-starter. I mean, if you're up 24-6 somehow at halftime, if Brock's been awesome, then yeah, Luke's not playing. But I'm not assuming that will happen. So you're going into it. I know they don't think like this; they're competitors. But I'm going into it assuming they're going to lose, and they're probably going to lose significantly. So yes, it's a great time for both guys to get reps. You're already in my mind. You've already chalked up the loss. You've already been beaten into submission down there a few years ago. It didn't crush the program. You can withstand it. That's crazy, man. They went down there and lost to them like what 50? Was it 52-10 or 52-3 or something?
52-10, I think. Yeah, 22.
And then 2 years later, they were beating them 45-3.
Yep.
They haven't lost since. They lost to them in 2020 and got absolutely boat raced. Your head coach was at home with COVID. And then you haven't lost to that program since. And 2 years later, you were beating them by 45-3 in the same building. Again, just reminding people how quickly this can turn around. It's going to be ugly. I got it. But it doesn't mean it has to be ugly in perpetuity. But, yes, going in, I would have a plan to play both. I would play both. I don't think it's – I don't think Brock will look at it as I'm being sacrificed. I think he's like, I get another chance to show that I'm the guy. And you got a chance, man. Go prove it. I want to see improvement from both of them. I really want to see – because, again, Miami's defense isn't special. They got some dudes, but they're not special.
Their front four is going to probably be quite intimidating to a guy like Luke if Duke was. But then I guess Duke might run some more exotic stuff that
Duke leads the country in tackles for loss.
Fair.
That Norvell mentioned about 12 times.
But they lead the conference. They're second in the nation. But anyhow.
Oh, all right. Hey, come on, Mike. Get it together. Quit telling us they lead the country if they don't.
They might now after what they did to Florida State, but going into the game, they were not. They were number one in the conference.
He might have been taking into account how Florida State helped their stats. But yeah, so I think you're not worried so much about how he handles the Miami defense, because Miami's defense isn't anything special. The offense is incredible. The defense is maybe average, a little bit above average, but nothing special. What you wonder about is can he take a step from the guy we saw on Friday night? And again, I like Luke Gromenhawk. I think there's a very good chance he's the guy next year, but he was a little rattled and overwhelmed in that game. And understood with the protection, understood that it's his first game, his first real experience, and he's coming into a 17-3 hole. But he was letting the rush affect him a lot. And I want to see if he takes – look, he's still going to get sacked if he plays. I mean, it's just the reality of this offensive line. But does he look better? Does he look more comfortable? Does he have a little more growth? Can you see some growth from those 5 drives and everything he got to watch on film and run back and watch again and relive in his head and watch again and then practice for 7 days? Does he apply that and take a step? That's what I want to see. Maybe it's against Miami, maybe it's against North Carolina, but I want to see some improvement in that area. And then with Brock Glenn, obviously you just want to see him not devolve into madness. That's an improvement I'd like to see. I brought it up on headlines, but it's the truth. The thing I like about Brock Glenn the most, I think, is the competitiveness. It's a small thing. It's a dumb thing. It's probably something I shouldn't even bring up. But the play he made when he was getting sacked to end the game, the thought to just flip it to Toafili. Most guys just wear it and the game's over.
No.
Like, oh, well, I'm getting sacked, the game's over. He's fighting like hell to keep the play alive while his offensive line cannot block for him. So he flips it to the guy behind him. I mean, I thought that was telling that it's a guy trying to keep the play alive. And then he had done it the play before where he almost threw the interception, running to the sideline, knowing
that was not a great one though.
But if he runs out of bounds,
right? But give somebody a chance. I mean,
the throw was horrible.
Yeah.
The throw was a joke. But the thought to make the throw, to run out of bounds and then go, wait, no, I don't need to run out of bounds here. It's going to be 4th and 30. I have a receiver down there. Let me back up from this defender and try to at least throw it and give him a chance. Now, he underthrew him by 10 yards. The Duke kid should have intercepted it. But the thought to do that and not just be like, oh, well, there's nobody open. Let me just run out of bounds, and it's going to be 4th and 27. The fight, right? I maybe that's the word. Just the fight to keep the play alive. I like seeing that stuff, man. Yeah. I do like seeing that stuff. I think there's some stuff to build in there. His accuracy issues bother me the most about anything about him. He's obviously got athleticism. He's got some competitiveness to him. He still struggles with accuracy at times, a little too much for my liking.
Do you think it's accuracy or do you think it's poor decision making? I'm not saying one's better than the other, but I think there's a difference. I don't think he can't place the ball where he wants to put it. I just think he makes some bad decisions. Like the interception, the pick six, that was
that's not accuracy. That's a bad decision and it's late. But also just in the flow of the game, there's throws like the throw to Ja'Kai on the 4th down conversion. Come on, man. Ja'Kai made a tough catch. That was not an easy catch. He threw it too hard and he threw it behind him, and he's wide open. Give my man a chance.
Yeah, fair.
Same thing on a couple 3rd down throws. There's one to Landon in particular that was behind him. Like there's still some stuff. The decision making, obviously, on the 2 interceptions was dreadful. But overall, when he's throwing it to a spot or he's throwing it to a guy, I'd just like him to be a little more fine with it. But he's also a redshirt freshman that's had 5 starts in his life. So that should improve, you would hope. That's the stuff I see in practice that it's like, man, it could have been a little better there. Could have been a little better. Don't make him stop. Lead him. Don't make him have to go to his knees to catch it. Put it up higher. Stuff like that I think can be improved upon. But, yeah, the athleticism and the competitiveness, that's stuff you can't teach. And I do think he has it. He kind of reminds me, is this blasphemy, Aslan?
Oh, don't say Ken Dorsey. I always give Ken Dorsey props in that Ohio State national championship game for having like somebody strung on his hip, and he just threw the ball up like a arm punch just to get the ball off.
I was going to say like a young Mackenzie Milton.
Oh, that's not blasphemy. We got nothing. We got no animus towards Mackenzie
Milton. Well, I know,
Milton.
just because he wasn't good at Florida State. I did not say Mackenzie Milton. The UFC version of Mackenzie Milton. I think McKenzie was more gifted as a passer. I think they're similar athletes.
And
I think they both have.
He was a little faster, McKenzie.
McKenzie was pretty quick, man. McKenzie could run, but they're close. Very, very similar athletes, I think, and very similar size and competitiveness. I think that's like when you look at Brock Glenn, like the UCF version of McKenzie Milton is, to me, that might be ceiling. Like that's the ceiling for projecting him and what he could be, which is a very, very good college quarterback. Luke Kromenhoek, from just watching him in practice, I think his ceiling is probably
Justin Herbert.
Higher than that, yeah. And I'm certainly not predicting he's going to be Justin Herbert. No, not higher than Justin Herbert. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Higher than McKenzie Milton.
Okay.
Higher than Brock Glenn's ceiling. I think Luke Kromenhoek has a higher ceiling. But there's a lot of quarterbacks that don't ever hit their ceiling. And right now, everybody listening to this would take McKenzie Milton, UCF McKenzie Milton in a heartbeat.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So there is a chance that's there in that kid. Not a great chance. I don't know what the percentage is, but there's a chance. So anyway, 5 games to figure out. Try to start projecting what they can be in 2025 as sophomores. But it starts Saturday night against Miami. Yeah. It continues. It started in Durham.
Yeah, I don't want to relitigate too much stuff here, but when I was listening to you guys on headlines, it seems like I'm not trying to defend the offensive line. I'm not trying to say the offensive line has been anywhere near acceptable, but I wonder where some of these things kind of rank when we're going to do the autopsy on the season afterwards, because this ultimately was a bad evaluation on so many different pieces, mostly obviously the quarterback. And I know we try to not be maybe too overly critical about that acquisition because it seemed like there was a proper plan around it to make it work, right? We could sit here and criticize, look at what DJ Uiagalelei looked like for so much of his career. What are you going to do with him? And his, the conventional wisdom is, all right, we're gonna kind of grind it out, be a run first team, run heavy, take some shots downfield. Hopefully we can hit on a few of those, enough of those, and we can, smoke and mirrors, 10 wins, get into Charlotte and see what happens. But how many coaches chasing a playoff, coming off a 13-1 season, give themselves such a narrow kind of entry point for a season, Corey? Because, again, I thought you and Ira and Jeff were bringing up really good points just about, a lot of this falls on Mike not seeing things earlier, whether it was spring. And I don't even know what you could have done at that point. You already brought DJ in. The window that opened after that, there wasn't a lot of talent, but maybe you could have started trying to figure out some alternative ways to move the football. But I just feel there's going to be moments in this game against Miami where one of these guys is going to have a chance to make a play or two. And listen, these drops don't happen most of the time unless you've got some time to make a throw. So it's kind of like an amalgamation here of thoughts about where they're at right now, missing on a quarterback, and just how important it's going to be for one of these guys to kind of rise up. But I just feel the offensive line is not acceptable. I get that, but I just feel like they weren't great shakes last season either. And how much different are they now versus last year? Is it ultimately the quarterback as we sit here and look at the Miami game,
Man, no, it's ultimately the guy that's running the show. It's on him. But yes, because the offensive line is, honestly the same as it was last year. I don't think it's worse, talent-wise. Player for player, I don't think it's worse. Maybe it is now because you're playing young guards, but it's not like Casey Roddick and Demetri Emanuel are killing it in the league, and the other 3 guys are back. So I don't think I know Richie Leonard got hurt, but when Richie Leonard was playing, it's still your offense was still awful. Your running game was awful. So the offensive what changed the most obviously was the offensive line remained below average. Yeah, I'm not with Jeff to say it's the worst offensive line in the country.
Yeah, I just don't think it's that. I don't think it's that inexcusably bad.
It's the worst. It's the worst performing offensive line in the country. But I think there's semantics here when you talk about saying it's the worst offensive line in the country, because that makes it sound like it's the worst collection of offensive linemen.
Yeah, what about Cal though? I think Cal looked terrible. I don't know if Florida State looked as hapless an entire half as Cal did in the second half against Florida State.
Yeah, but even then, Cal was going up against a pretty good defensive line. And also, Cal put up 400 yards of offense, and Florida State didn't.
Yeah, but we're talking about Duke having leading the conference in tackles for loss, and Clemson's got some probably NFL guys on their front four. So
yeah, no, and look, I think that's why I always push back a little bit when it comes to the offensive line. It's not good. It's performing worse than any offensive line in the country. I don't want people to get that twisted and say that they're the least talented offensive line in the country. That's just not true. It's just not true. You can't tell me that UNLV has better offensive linemen than you do, because it's not true. They're coached better. They're schemed up better. They run a scheme that fits their strengths better. But Boise State, UNLV, Vanderbilt, these guys aren't recruiting at your level, even on the offensive line. They're not. Vanderbilt would jump over hurdles and hurdles and hurdles to get a Jalen Early or a Lucas Simmons. They don't go to Vanderbilt. And yet you still can't even – so, again, I think there's a disconnect between when you hear it's the worst offensive line in the country. I don't think it's like the 2018 version where it was just because they had bad players. I think these are average to decent players, perhaps, that are getting coached really badly. And they're not being helped by the people calling the shots. All that is absolutely what I believe. So, yes, there needs to be an overhaul with everything. But, yeah, the quarterback can mask all that, man. The point I was trying to make was it's similar talent to last year on the offensive line. The difference is you lost guys that I think were masking some real warts. Trey Benson had a ton of negative runs last year, or 1-yard runs or 0-yard runs. The difference is when you did finally crease it up, like you did a few times against Duke, those 11-yard runs are 40-yard runs. And Jordan Travis, when you do let a guy just come free, he avoids the sack and extends the play a la Cam Ward, makes a play downfield, or throws it up to one of the guys that catches it at 10.5 feet in the air. They had all these ways to mask the warts of the offense and the offensive line last year that all disappeared. And Norvell's biggest mistake was thinking they were close to being, I guess in hindsight, he didn't understand how much those great players were masking what was an average offense and a below-average offensive line, again, performance-wise. Because you take Trey Benson and Jordan Travis, if you put – yeah, man, if you take – well, we know it. I was about to say if you take all those guys away from last year and put these guys – yeah, this is what it is. It's the similar offensive line. It's a very similar offensive line. The same guys, essentially, that have been playing a ton are guys that you were excited about because they're young. And they're going out there and they're rushing for 65 yards per game. So the quarterback is huge, though, man. I'm not saying it's not, but I think I've kind of moved over to the mindset that it's 50-50 between figuring out what you're going to do offensively, getting in somebody here that can help you offensively, but not just be a guy that's an O-line coach that you gave a title to. And that diminishes Alex Atkins' role. I'm not saying he doesn't help game plan. He doesn't help come up with ideas during the week. It is Mike Norvell's offense. And nobody probably is going to tell Mike Norvell, no, you need to do this, you need to do this. I would like Mike Norvell to have somebody, maybe more like a Dillingham, honestly, that calls the plays or goes through the offense beat by beat with Mike Norvell and who he trusts. And can say, yeah, that's a good idea, or no, that's a bad idea. They can have that dialogue, and he needs somebody that can help him with this offense, in my opinion. I don't think that's outlandish to say when they are what they are, and that's what, again, we'll have these hot boards going on probably in 5 weeks. We start with the hot boards and we'll see what his plan is. If the guy at UNLV or the guy at Pitt or whoever you want is even in the running, or if Norvell's just going to fire Ron Dugans, and that's the answer. We have no idea, but it has to be. To me, it has to be substantial change because this has obviously been so bad. But quarterback going into next season, having a quarterback you can believe in and a quarterback that's good, that you know is good, that does change a lot of things. That is such a big help, and it's like a warm comfort blanket, knowing that you have a guy you can depend on. Right now, you don't. Right? Neither one of these guys.
Security blanket.
I call them comfort blankets.
Is there such a thing as a?
No, it's just my own wording. I couldn't think of security.
I got you. What do you think about 21.5 right now before we go to break?
I don't like the Noles to cover that. No. Just because I think the defense will play fine for a while. I think maybe they get shocked and it's ugly quickly, but eventually it's gonna be it'll be ugly in the third quarter, second half, and I think that Cristobal will have no qualms with putting up 50 points again.
I don't know. I think Mike showed grace and sportsmanship 2 years ago. I think maybe Mario might appreciate that and pay it forward.
It'd be nice. It'd be nice if he did, but I don't foresee that happening. Plus, they're trying to get Cam Ward the Heisman, so he's got to put up big numbers.
Yeah. But there's no.
Miami's never had a Heisman winner, have they? Oh no, they had Testaverde.
Yeah, come on.
And
Toretta.
Yeah, sorry. It's been over 30 years.
Yeah,
I guess.
Sorry, yeah. We'll see how you're gonna do on this trivia thing now. After all.
Yeah, that's not a great start, is it?
Yeah, no.
Me forgetting Testaverde and Toretta.
Yeah, Our guy M. Adam CZ was saying, hey, for those of you expecting an upset, and he had like a screenshot of a statistical comparison of Florida State and Miami, and it's touche.
Yeah.
And then somebody's like, I just want to be competitive and close. And I don't want to, we're not changing the standard here and moving the goalpost, but this is where we're at right now going to this game. I even wonder how that can happen, because, you'll hear from Matt Shodell coming up here in a little bit just about, what if he's like, what if, where Miami has been here the last few weeks, like falling behind, being in dogfights. They don't necessarily tense up, but, there might be a point where they get a little bit emotionally exhausted of being in these sort of nip and tuck affairs. It just feels like there's not a lot of, is there anything out there that's like a reasonable expectation of, Cam Ward turns the ball over a bunch, but it feels like you might not be able just to run the ball and milk clock out of it. You're going to have to make throws and you're going to have to move the ball, and that's through chunk plays, which is going to get the ball right back to Miami. And over the course of 10 possessions, your 10 possessions versus their 10 possessions, hard to think that you're going to be able to outscore Miami. So I don't even know.
I can't foresee how it is a close one-score game in the fourth quarter. Unless you could block a punt, you got to make them punt. You could block a punt, you could return a kick, you could actually get some turnover luck. And start, maybe get a couple of fumbles or interceptions, like something like that. If you win the turnover battle, it at least gives you a fighting chance to keep it close. But you don't win the turnover battle. You're like second to last in the country in turnover margin. So that's just not something you do. You turn it over too much and you don't create any. So it would be odd now for that to happen, or maybe it's due. You're due to get some luck, and if that happens, you got a chance. I mean, that's like the 18 game. With Willie's first year, they went down there. I didn't think they had any chance. They had been awful the first couple of games. They lost to Syracuse badly. They barely beat. No, that was Lewis and Monroe. That was the next year. But they didn't look great. They didn't look great in whatever that FCS game was that they won. And then they played better the game before Miami, I think. And then they went down.
It was Samford.
Was that who they played before Miami?
No, but that was the FCS game you were talking about.
Yeah, and then they lost to Syracuse, right?
Yeah, sounds about right.
And then I can't remember who they played before Miami. I think they played somebody and won and looked kind of competent. Just can't remember who it was. But anyway, then you go down to Miami and you're like, they don't have much of a chance. This doesn't seem like anything they can do. This was a Mark Richt Miami team. And then you're up 27-7 in the second half. But it took a punt return. It took some turnovers. It took a couple of big plays, I think, offensively. Not many, but a few. And you had a chance to win the game. So maybe, things break a certain way and you get a chance to keep it close. And, it would be nice to see because Brock Glenn, he didn't soil himself when he came back in the second half and was in a close game. He was driving them down for a game-tying score. And then his coach let him down with a delay of game, or he let himself down because he can't read a play clock. And they get a delay of game after it takes 40 seconds to figure out what play you're going to call. And then he's driving him down again. So that would have tied the game. And then he's driving him down again to tie the game, maybe go for two if you score a touchdown. The freshman running back fumbles the ball. And even then, I think the play after the series after that, he converted the fourth down around midfield, and then they started backing up because that's what they do. Sack, hold, blah, 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 game over. But he didn't, melt down when he was in a close, tight game on the road. That was kind of good to see. All these are experiences. You got to see how these quarterbacks deal with. And maybe if you keep it tight, even if you don't win, that's a really good experience, man, to be in an environment like that. I don't know that Brock Glenn has never played in an environment like that. Obviously, Cromanhawk hasn't, but the Louisville game was mostly Florida State fans, and it was a neutral site. The Orange Bowl was an exhibition. And then Clemson, he was at home. In this game, it was a Duke game that felt like a neutral site game because half the crowd was Florida State fans, and it was only 30,000 people there. This will be a raucous, rowdy, rabid atmosphere that he has never been a part of before. Let's see how he handles it. Again, both of them. Let's see if one of them handles it better, how they handle the whole situation, because they're your cornerstones. One of them is going to be the cornerstone you hopefully build this offense over with the next couple of years.
Noles came into the Miami game hot, 2-game winning streak, wins over Northern Illinois and
That's
Louisville.
who it was.
Louisville, too. Remember that come from behind inexplicable game?
That crazy game. That's right.
They could just ran the
okay, so
clock
maybe
out.
we weren't. That was crazy. That the throw, was it Nooney that caught that?
Yeah.
Because Petrino threw it on third down and threw an intercept. The ball got tipped. Something crazy. They should have lost that game. But yeah, so that's right. So they not quite the same thing. They had come in with a couple of wins and were feeling better about themselves, and they were up 27-7.
Yeah. Lost
Who knows how
28-7.
different the whole thing goes if they win that game?
Oxford Dictionary says comfort blanket is a noun in the British vernacular. It's another term for security blanket. So
Well, suck on that.
keep doing your
What's
thing.
that say? What's that in the Oxford Dictionary?
Touche, Corey. I don't know what suck it is in the Oxford Dictionary, but I do know that the opposite is suck it is like enjoy. Have a good. Actually, no, suck it is kind of
guess
like
it's
enjoy.
blow.
Yeah. Anyhow, not a good segue, but a great place called Corner Pocket Bar and Grill in Tallahassee, Florida. You folks should check it out. It comes highly recommended from the two dudes on this show, as well as everybody in the warchant.com orbit universe, if you will. Lots of folks that we always get to see and hang out with. We'll get to do that next week, I think, right? North Carolina comes to town, so we'll be back on it Friday doing a happy hour meet and greet over at the CP. If you don't want to wait that long to get some awesome chicken wings and great wraps named after great men and live music and billiards and darts, just head over to 2475 Appalachia Parkway. There's happy hour weekdays 4 to 7 p.m., daily lunch specials 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., weekdays, only $8.99, comes with a side dish of your choice. And then obviously all day Sunday happy hour. Go check out the football games, the NFL slate, whatever your favorite team is. They will be on a television. And as we've said plenty of times, they will point you in the right direction if it's not in the screen in front of your face. The people there know how to operate remote controllers and television sets, which should be a prerequisite to working in a sports bar, but that'll be on our presidential campaign for the 2028 cycle when Corey and I try to take over the world. In the meantime, you can catch us over at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, 2475 Appalachia Parkway. What's up, everybody? We're back. It's Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. VitaminEnergy.com, promo code Warchant BOGO. Shake it, take it, do it, please. So we got Matt Shodell with us here, managing editor of CaneSport.com. Before we started this, I'm like, hey, take it easy on us. And really sinister laugh followed from Matt. Just We're not a cowards podcast. We brought Matt on the program last year when Miami was down and out and was coming to Tallahassee with a true freshman quarterback who they did not even really give it a shot at playing quarterback in that game. And he faced the music. So we bring him back to, I guess, get like a pre-victory lap in here, Matt. How are things in Coral Gables, man? Is the U back?
First of all, I only have a sinister laugh. There is no backup laugh in my repertoire. But no, the U is not back. You know, the U might be where Florida State was last year. This is sort of a weird sort of reversal of the roles. It wasn't that long ago Florida State was undefeated, right? It's all, to me, transfer portal related. Miami would have realistically 3 losses right now, if not for the transfer portal. And FSU last year, if not for the transfer portal, where would they have been, right? So I keep telling Miami fans, like, enjoy this because next year we might be where Florida State is.
Well, think about it. I mean, in 2020, you guys hung half 100 on Florida State, and then in 2022, Florida State could have hung half 100 on Miami down in Miami Gardens. So it's a weird time. It's a weird time to be alive.
Yeah, look, the way that Miami's playing right now on offense is championship level, sort of the exact opposite of Florida State, right? You guys are, I think, 132nd out of 133 teams in total offense. Miami's first in total offense in the country and second in the country in scoring offense. Miami hasn't been real good on defense, which is why they could have lost 3 games. They've gone up 34, 38, and 45 points the last 3 games. The good news for Miami is Florida State can't really score from what I've seen, But we talked with some players, obviously, already this week. We talked with coaches. And it's the same message down here, which is throw the records out. In the Miami-Florida State series, who knows? And Florida State, your one win was against Cal. And Cal should have beaten Miami. I mean, Cal was ahead of Miami by, 25 points, in the third quarter?
Yep.
So they're not wrong. Anything can happen. But if you ask Miami Hurricanes fans, like, they're just getting ready for a party at Hard Rock Stadium on Saturday. They don't think this is going to be a challenge whatsoever. They think it's going to be redemption for the beatdown 2 years ago, the last time Florida State was at Miami. So, I'm not privy to exactly what's gone wrong for Florida State because it seems like the talent's there on paper, right? I mean, this was a team ranked in the top 15, top 20 by everybody heading into this season. And I don't think Miami fans maybe appreciate it. They see the record as 1-6. They see the team can't play offense. They see the team as second tier, third tier, fourth tier defense. And they just add it up and like, well, Miami's killing it. 7-0. The offense can't be stopped. So so they do the math. Bad Florida State plus good Miami equals Miami blowout. But, I'm not sure, have you explained to your fans what's gone wrong? Because I can't tell.
No one knows, Matt. We don't know.
I can't tell. I try to tell fans, like, what's gone wrong for Florida State. I'm telling, like, we had our own show yesterday, and I'm like, I think it's mental. Because Florida State was supposed to be so good, and then you lose some games, you play badly, and you just start imploding mentally versus teams that are not predicted to be top 15 or top 20. They lose games. They're like, okay, you know what? We lost. We'll get back to work. When the expectations are as high as Florida State's, maybe there's some mental explosion, implosion, whatever. And in Miami's case, guess what? If Florida State does come out and has a halftime lead, for instance, I don't know that doesn't happen to Miami. Like, Miami has been behind, has come back from behind, but Miami hasn't necessarily faced, a home crowd where they're behind against a team they're supposed to kill, against the rival. Like, that would be a mind meld mess up for Miami too.
Well,
so
that's not going to happen. Don't worry about it.
Well, there you go. So that's what it's getting to is if Florida State can play a good first half, they'll have a chance. But if they're not ahead at halftime, I mean, Miami's just going to roll.
Right. All right. Well, yeah, there's a bunch of factors in here. They didn't get the quarterback they wanted. He's now in Coral Gables. They don't have anybody special on offense. The offensive line has regressed greatly with a lot of the same pieces they had. Defensively, the front four is okay. They're not nearly as good as we thought they were going to be. They're not as dominant. A lot of these guys had spot duty, have high ceilings. NFL scouts want to come check them out because of their measurables, but maybe they're just solid and not great, spectacular college football players. Linebackers are very poor, not locating the right gaps, allowing really big runs. So when they are able to get some kind of positive momentum, seemingly they allow these big runs in back-to-back weeks against Clemson and Duke. They just don't get off the field on third down either. The secondary is okay. There's just so much has gone into this map. But let's give everybody at home kind of an idea of what's been going on with Miami, watching some of these games. But obviously, it all starts with Cam Ward. Both schools, Miami and Florida State, desperately wanted Ward, whether it was Miami's pockets or Miami's academic calendar working more favorably for the Canes. They were able to kind of get Cam Ward. A lot of us, I think, saw him play the way he did against the Gators in the Swamp. And you're like, okay, we'll see if he can kind of keep that up. And, he's turned the ball over, but he just seems to have, it's tough to say it as an opposing fan, but like the it factor or whatever that you want from the quarterback position. Just how cool has it been to watch Cam Ward? And what's the the coolest thing or the thing that makes the most special in your mind so far?
Oh, I mean, it's been absolutely amazing. In some alternate reality, if Cam Ward played for Florida State, maybe you guys have only 1 or 2 losses, because like I said, Miami would have 3 losses without Cam Ward. I've covered the team since 2001. And so I know what a great Miami team looks like. They have not had a quarterback that looks like Cam Ward ever at Miami. He makes plays like, if you think, people say Patrick Mahomes, which maybe is an unfair comparison, but that's sort of how he plays. He's sort of a reckless Patrick Mahomes because he does fling some balls up for grabs, make some plays that he shouldn't really try to make. But the plays he makes are just incredible. Like, just last week alone, for instance, converts 3 third downs with his legs, including a third and I want to say 17. On top of that, on one play, he's rolling to his left, gets hit as he throws, and still somehow completes a 30-yard pass over a jumping defensive back into Xavier Restrepo's hands that turns into a 60-yard gain. On another play, rolling left, when it's going from the 30-yard line in, okay? So Louisville's dropped 8. There's nobody open, right? So Cam Ward's in the pocket, looking. He didn't expect to see them drop 8 and rush 3. Nobody's open. He rolls to his left. He's got pressure coming, and he unleashes the ball into the corner of the end zone, a perfect pass to Jacoby George for a touchdown. Now, that's not supposed to happen. A normal quarterback, you throw that away. The play's been busted, right? No. So I just don't see any defense in the country really stopping him. Now, with that said, the receiving core is not really different than what Miami had last year when the offense was hit or miss. They have back Jacoby George and Xavier Restrepo, who were the 2 top receivers last year. And they've added Sam Brown, who has been really, he just had his breakout game. He had been just okay. Fans were saying he should be benched for Isaiah Horton before that. So the receivers really aren't different. The tight ends are a big difference. Elijah Arroyo is a guy that's going to cause Florida State some problems. And you know how tight ends have been in the series, right? They make some decent plays. So dating back to Jeremy Shockey probably. So I think the tight ends will be heavily involved. They also have a guy, Elijah Lofton, a true freshman who has over 100 yards. So if you guys remember last year when Miami played Florida State, Miami literally had nobody at tight end who you even had to cover. I think the top tight end last year all season had 72 receiving yards. Elijah Arroyo already has, 250, 300 yards, a few touchdowns. Lofton has over 100 yards. Riley Williams has almost 100 yards. So this is a diverse group of tight ends who can catch, can block. And then on top of that, you have receiving running backs now. Damian Martinez is a receiving back. Mark Fletcher can catch passes. He had a nice 18-yard catch last game. And they have multiple backs that they can just roll out there. They played 3 running backs last game, including the number 3 back in the fourth quarter who ran for a touchdown in a close game. So really, there's no holes on this offense at all. And if you're Florida State's defense coordinator, Louisville literally tried to do everything. And Louisville's not a terribly untalented defense, right? They're a decent enough defense talent-wise. Like I said, they rushed 3 one play. They blitzed. They went zone. They went man. They did mixed coverages. They tried to do everything they could. And there was nothing that Cam Ward didn't diagnose and have success against. So I don't know what you do if you're Florida State's defensive coordinator. Now, I assume you're going to want to talk about Miami's defense because that's its Achilles heel.
I want to ask you about just to wrap up on the offense, and then we can transition to defense just so we're not totally depressed about all the weapons that Miami has. The backs, the receivers, it's impressive. A lot of it too is like it's homegrown too. So like we kind of, at least I tip my kind of cap to the way that Mario's been able to kind of construct the roster. But, when we think of Miami, when we think of Mario, you think of Alex Mirabel, like you think of just like dominating offensive line. In some of the games I watch, like a lot of these plays that Cam Ward is making, they're fantastic because he is under duress. Is the offensive line playing up to the caliber that you guys had expected going to the offseason? I know they lost some of the pieces. Matt Lee, for example, Javian Cohen, they lost some really important pieces from last year. Is the offensive line as dominant as you expected, or is it just good enough and no one's really seeming to care because this offense is putting up points at will, seemingly?
Yeah, well, they just got Jalen Rivers back, who probably is their best all-around offensive lineman. He's playing left tackle, left guard. He'd been missing in action since the first game, and he made a big difference last game. If you noticed, the run game never got on track until this past game all season. So, as it stands now, I would say this offensive line is as good, maybe even a little better than last year's. Prior to his return, I'd say no, they weren't as good as last year's line. But this is with a 1-game margin of error, whatever you want to call it. Like, we have to see another couple of games to really say, okay, the line is much better than last year, or it's worse, because missing Jalen Rivers was a big piece. He's just a really, really good all-ACC caliber offensive lineman who's back in action now. But with that said, this is not homegrown. That's why I was saying this is sort of like Florida State version 2023. Like, obviously Cam Ward is a transfer. Miami's starting center is a transfer. Miami's top running back is a transfer. Sam Brown, the number 2, number 3 receiver, depending how you look at it, is a transfer on offense. And they got a bunch of transfers on defense. And these are the main guys. These are guys.
I know, but I think like Restrepo is homegrown. He's better than anybody at Florida State has a receiver.
Restrepo, by the way, wasn't even recruited by Mario Cristobal, by the way. But yeah, he is homegrown, if you want to call him that.
Mark Fletcher's. I'd probably take Mark Fletcher over maybe every back other than Lawrence Toafili, maybe even over Lawrence Toafili on this roster. Elijah. How long is Arroyo? Arroyo's been there for what, 4 years or so?
And Francis Mauigoa. No, yeah, there's no doubt there's pieces there that are homegrown. There's no doubt about it. But in Miami, and Miami fans will know this, the question becomes, did Mario recruit the guys that can develop themselves into making this a national championship team just based on his recruits and their development? Because this year's team clearly is built half on the transfer portal and half on homegrown talent. I mean, there's 10 transfer portal starters or major contributors on this team right now. So half the team is transfers, and whether it's from this year or the year before, or the year before that, a lot of them on defense, are a ton of transfers on defense, from the defensive line all the way through the secondary. So, there's maybe only 4 or 5 on offense that are transfers, but there's like Akeem Messidor, Tyler Barron, and Simeon Barrow are 3 starters out of 4 that are transfers, came in whatever amount of years ago or this year on defensive transfers, defensive line. Francisco Mauigoa, linebacker, a transfer. And then in the secondary, you got Darryl Porter, was a transfer from West Virginia originally. Mish Powell is a starting safety who came in from Washington this year. They're using Jadaeus Richard a lot, a former Vanderbilt transfer. So the majority of the defense players that are playing, and also, Deani Hill from Marshall is playing a lot. So the majority of the guys on defense are former transfers. Like this is transfer defense U. Is that a thing? It's not transfer U. It's transfer defense U. And then on the offense, it's again, like I said, quite a few transfers as well. So that's what I'm saying. I don't want to fall down the FSU rabbit hole, which really Michigan State started. Right? Michigan State had that first year, all transfers, and they were amazing out of nowhere, and then they were terrible again. And FSU was amazing last year with great transfers helping, and now this year they're obviously not real good, right?
Well, it does seem that at least, defensively, you guys got some blue chip guys in the last 2 seasons. I know they're not playing yet.
Ruben Bain is homegrown, but he's in his second year, but he's absolutely amazing. Wesley Saints at linebacker has not done well the last couple of games, but he was really good the first 4 or 5 games. So he's homegrown. And in the secondary, OJ Frederic is a true freshman who's probably their best cornerback right now. And Jaden Harris
Damari Brown's hurt. And Damari Brown's the guy they got from high school.
Damari Brown's hurt, yeah. And Jaden Harris is safety, but not real good. So I'd say they have 3 guys on defense that are homegrown that are actually decent, producing pretty well. And that's it, on defense.
All right, so Ruben Bain back against Louisville. So, I mean, I was going to ask you just how back he is, but I think he got 10 pressures.
Yeah.
So he's going to be a handful. Then, so what? It's him, Tyler Barron, and then you got Messidor, and you got Simeon Barrow in the middle. And listen, Barrow's a guy that Florida State was kicking the tires on out of the portal. Bain's a guy they finished runner-up to probably in terms of his recruitment. So why is the defense seemingly quite porous? I mean, Virginia Tech might be a little bit better than everybody thought. Louisville's, Jeff Brom's a pretty good offensive coach. The Cal thing is pretty inexplicable, but maybe, Fernando Mendoza played out of his mind because it's his hometown team and he wanted to, show them how wrong he was for not recruiting them. But it's crazy because statistically, Miami's still traditionally not, they're still like in the 50s and the 60s, and I think in scoring defense, total defense, but, the Ball State FAMU game kind of balances out. What seems to be the issues? Because watching the interview earlier in the week with Lance Guidry, he seems very uneasy because he's getting a lot of hard questions, which is crazy because you guys are 7-0.
Look, Miami fans, I know people in Tallahassee are nice. People in Miami, we're not nice. We're going to ask hard questions. We're not going to be like, oh, everything's great because you're 7-0. We're like, the other teams against you have scored 34, 30, and 45 points. Like, we get it. There was a kick return with 7 of those points. A fumble turned into 7 points, stuff like that. But it hasn't been anywhere near good enough. And as media, we sort of were expecting Lance Guidry to take some of it upon himself and say, you know what, I'm leaving the corners on an island too much. Maybe I have to do something different, whatever. I mean, he keeps doing the same things from what we can tell over and over and over again all season, and he has no answers for it. He said earlier this week that just like he doesn't really know why. Like, you ask him what's gone wrong, he doesn't really have an answer.
You guys asked him if you should simplify things. He's like, but the offenses aren't simplifying those.
Right.
So what can we, and it's like, hey, a little chippy there, Lance. But
I'm sure he's frustrated. And regarding Ruben Bain, I mean, the guy has 10 pressures and a sack last game. And he says, it was pretty decent. So we're like, well, what's a really good game for you? And he says he hasn't even come close to putting one together. So maybe it'll be the Florida State game. I don't know. But really, to me, having covered this team for a while now and having watched Lance Guidry and studied his film from his previous stops, where, by the way, the highest level he ever got as a defense coordinator was when he coached at Marshall, which is part of the reason why Miami fans are so concerned, because he hasn't had success at an LSU, an Alabama, you name it. Like his highest level team was Marshall. But with that said, he runs a defense that if the defensive line pressure or the blitz or whatever he's doing doesn't get there quickly, he needs great cornerbacks. Like, that's just what his defense is predicated on. His defense is predicated on having great cover corners. And he has maybe three-quarters of one right now with O.J. Frederick and nothing else. I mean, the highest targeted players with 70% success completions against them are cornerbacks Darryl Porter, who was the top returning corner and the only starter returning in the defense, and Jadaeus Richard, who I mentioned before. And both those guys are really struggling. So when the pressure doesn't come from that front four, which is really, really good, and the linebackers aren't particularly good in coverage, the safeties haven't been good in coverage, and you're relying on these cornerbacks, they're not holding up. So it seems clear to me that that's the issue. The run defense is actually ranked fairly decently in the nation. The pass defense has gone from being in the top 20 to, I think, in the 60s now. They've just been getting torn apart. And guess what? If Cal hadn't given up trying to throw the ball in the second half, they just figured, okay, we won already, up by 25 in the third quarter. Like, let's just run the clock out, right? If they hadn't done that and they kept throwing the ball down the field, like, Miami would have lost that game, and Miami's stats would be worse on defense. As much as you want to point to, 7 points were the kick return and 7 points were because there was a fumble recovery at the 20. The stats would be even worse if Cal kept trying to throw the ball instead of they ran the ball, I think, 9 out of 10 plays or 8 out of 9 plays at one point in the second half, just trying to get out of there. So it's been a mess. It's been a mess. Lance Guidry doesn't seem to have answers. It does seem like it's partially scheme, partially personnel. When you have problems like this, it tends to not be one thing. It's not one guy. It's system-wide. It's more than just one player that you can't replace. And it's probably not going away. And the only thing that can fix it is bad offense, right? Because if you have bad offense against bad defense, it might make the defense look good. Mm-hmm. And that might be the case this weekend, right? But it probably won't be the case when Miami plays Syracuse, when Miami plays Georgia Tech, even maybe when Miami plays Wake Forest, because Wake Forest can throw the ball a bit. So those are the three games that I have circled as these are defenses that probably these are offenses that the defense will probably give up 28 plus points against, and those are the games Miami has to score 35 plus points to win, and they probably will because of Cam Ward, But as it relates to Florida State, like, you guys don't have a good matchup because your offense bad against bad probably equals good for Miami, right? And Miami's offense is good enough against anybody that they're going to score 28 plus points. So, that's why you see a 20 plus point line in this game, which I don't think we've ever seen it. Have you ever seen that in this series ever?
Is that how high it is right now?
I think it opened at 21. I haven't looked at what it is today, but I think it opened at 21 or 20. Yeah, somewhere in there.
Yeah, it's probably have to go back long ways to find something that big of a discrepancy between these two teams. But yeah, that's where we find ourselves right now. Florida State does. This might be the first elite offense Florida State has played. I don't know, man. Like, really, since I'm trying to think, like, what other elite offense Florida State has played since Mike has been here, really. LSU obviously had the Heisman Trophy winning quarterback last year, but that was week 1. They did a really good job of slowing him down. But just the amount of running backs that Miami has, what they want to do in the run game, the fact that Ward can run, the fact that Ward can throw in the pocket, the fact that Ward can throw on the run. There's so many different. This was the luxury Florida State had last year. It was just over the course of 60 minutes. You cannot shut down Jordan Travis in this offense. Over the course of 60 minutes, if you're a really good defense, you cannot shut down Cam Ward in the Miami offense, probably, let alone being average, which is kind of where Florida State's defense is right now. So the linebackers, always a problem right now for Florida State. I'm trying to still scroll here and find it. That's 21.5. Don't be so dramatic, Matt. 21.5 spread. Yeah. So, all right. One thing, I'll ask you an uncomfortable question on the way out, Matt. If you could humor me, if you can punt on it too. You're the guest here. Don't want to make you feel too uncomfortable.
Are you going to ask about my elliptical machine? That would be about the only thing that makes me uncomfortable because I don't use it enough.
Is that a new edition? I thought you had. I know you got your Seminole tribe. You got your Appaloosa horse portrait.
Yes, I do. There. That is, believe it or not, that is not Renegade. That is a horse from a long time ago.
Nole envy. We all have it. I get it. Yeah. Is there a general consensus range that Miami people are under the impression that they had to go to get Cam Ward to come to Miami in terms of a NIL package?
Miami fans celebrate NIL. They don't care.
No. I'm not trying to make anybody feel that. Yeah. Because listen, Florida State wanted him. Right, I know. That was his number one priority. Yeah. And there's a back and forth between me and our managing editor that, that Miami probably would not have been. There was no dollar amount that Miami would have said no to get Cam Ward, because that's just how focused, desperate, if you want to say it, to get something positive going for Mario. And I never really totally bought that. I believe that Florida State probably looked at it from an overall budgeting perspective where, all right, we don't know for sure that Cam Ward's going to blossom into what he's been this year. So we cannot commit a huge sum of money. We'd rather use that and spread it around all these other pieces, which, by the way, they've quite literally missed on everybody that got in the portal. So, there's, I'm not trying to make you feel shameful for it. I just wonder, like, is it believed that he's like $1 million man? Because
the number that I heard was $1.5 million, which is probably what the going rate should be for a top quarterback, right?
That's transformed your program. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, think about how much money he's made for Miami, right? I mean, it's pennies on the dollar to pay a guy like that $1.5 million. Just the nationwide attention. And when it comes to Cam Ward, when he was being recruited by Miami, by Florida State, I spoke with his dad quite often, and they swear to this day that he had more money if he went somewhere else. What Cam Ward liked about Miami is their situation with their system, how it fit him, and the returning talent that Miami had on board. Miami really was, at that point when they got him, just missing a quarterback. They had taken Reese Poffenberger from Albany as a desperation addition. And honestly, if the season began and Cam Ward went to the NFL, which is really what it came down to, was NFL versus Miami at that point, Reese Poffenberger probably wouldn't even be the starter. It would probably be Emory Williams again, who you guys remember from last year when he broke his arm. Was it his arm or his leg? He broke his arm. Yes, he broke his arm, not his leg, his arm. And that would have been probably the guy this year. And I don't know how that would have played out. Emory Williams might be the starter next year. They might just go and get another portal quarterback next year now, because you sort of fall in love with the portal, right? That's what happened to Mike Norvell. That's what might happen to Mario Cristobal, because it's so easy, right? It's so easy to get a guy that's been developed, that's already done it at a program at a high level, and you say, just plug him in. Just plug him in. And that's what Miami's done with a lot of guys with success this year. Because remember, the first 2 years of Mario Cristobal's tenure, he was in love with the portal. He took double-digit portal guys each of those first 2 cycles, and very few of them panned out, and you saw the results, right? Miami was bad. Miami was bad. And now this year, he finally had a home run in the portal, and Miami's really good. So who's to say next year, if the recruits that he's recruited, and he's done a great job in recruiting, but if they don't develop correctly, or there's a miss here or there, or a few injuries, or this position's too not deep enough, who's to say that the next transfer haul might not work out, right? I mean, Florida State fans can speak to that, right? Miami fans can also speak to that, because we had a lot of criticism of Mario Cristobal coming from me in particular. Why are you wasting spots on bad portal guys, right? Because Florida State, instead of taking how many portal guys you guys took this year, and the ones that maybe didn't pan out last year, although most of them did, those are recruiting spots, right? Because, there used to be a recruiting limit of 85, which is changing. But when there's that recruiting limit of 85, and you give 15 of them to the transfer portal every year, and not all of them leave every single year, right? They're not all seniors. You're talking about 25% of your roster at some point being portal guys that weren't your recruits, that weren't developed by you, that maybe are just taking up spots from a top recruit you could have gotten and developed. And 2 years, 3 years later is here at a program for 2 or 3 years, starring for your program for 2 or 3 years, instead of a guy who's, even if he pans out, sometimes they're one and done, right? Because what we haven't talked about is almost every single guy we mentioned, except for Damian Martinez, who may or may not come back. He has a year left. Every other guy we've mentioned is gone after this year. They lose their starting center, who's a transfer. They lose their starting wide receiver transfer, Sam Brown. They lose Cam Ward. They lose on defense every one of those guys. Simeon Barrow's gone. Tyler Barron's gone. At linebacker, Francisco Malenoa's gone. Mish Powell's gone. They're all out of eligibility, So where do you go with those holes when guys aren't getting experience behind them? That's the next question for Miami, and it's probably the next question for Florida State also. Where do you go from here? Because if your roster is not built up from the bottom up and you're just relying on transfers every year, you're just rebuilding your roster every year with other teams' guys, cast-offs, guys who aren't happy somewhere else, who want to start somewhere else, or guys who are doing a money grab who may not be the right fit for your team culture-wise. Miami just sort of, I don't want to say lucked out, because, yeah, you have to vet these guys and get them into your program, and Miami did that. But, it's somewhat of a crapshoot when you're going in the portal every year and trying to grab 10 guys.
Yeah. All righty then. That's pretty much where we're at and where Miami's at right now. We'll see how it all works out. ESPN Saturday, 7 p.m. When Florida State takes on number 6 Miami, I think.
Yes.
Matt, thanks for taking time. I appreciate it. Check out Kane Sport if you want more. I don't think Florida State fans can comment on the threads, but they can hop in there and read the Gary Furman's War Room, right? That's your guys.
Yeah. Yes, you can. Enjoy it.
That's Matt Shodell, everybody. Thanks for jumping on, Matt. We appreciate it.
Of course, anytime.
All right, Corey, let's get to it. I should have had a music bed under here, just some sort of trivia music playing throughout, but I don't want to throw you off too much. So what I think I don't know how many questions I have here. I've got a question from every single game from 1990 up until 1999, and I peppered in some stuff from the 80s. So I didn't want to go any further back than 1984, which that might even be a little too difficult. But there's different point totals. And with that said, we're going to start off. First question, 1 point. 1984, what Florida State Seminole had a 77-yard touchdown run against the Canes?
Jesse Hester. Jesse the Jet Hester, who was a first-round pick of the Raiders. And I was just talking about him. I met somebody recently. Oh, by the way, I met Gator Kirk.
Oh, did you met? Oh, nice, dude. He DM'd
Shout
me.
out to Gator Kirk. I feel so bad. The game had just ended. I'm elbowing my way through Duke fans, and then somebody yells, "Hey, Corey!" And I turn around. He goes, "Hey, big fan." He said, "Big fan" or "Hello," and I'm like, "Hey, how are you?" And he goes, "I'm actually Gator Kirk," and I'm like, "Oh!" And I went over and shook his hand. I said hello to his wife, but I was in a hurry because we had a 500-yard walk to that field house to get to Norvell, so I wasn't able to hang out and say and talk. But I did get to meet Gator Kirk, so that was awesome. And I was talking to somebody else just recently that was mentioning Jesse Hester, and that was in Durham too, but I can't remember who that was. But yeah, I'm going to say Jesse Hester in 1984.
That is correct, everybody. 1 point for your boy Corey Clark.
It was a double reverse, not just a regular reverse, a double reverse.
Which is like a 360, so you end up going in the same direction.
Yeah, it is funny when you think about that. It's like, why does that work? But it did a lot.
Yeah. All right, we go to the infamous 1987 game. We're going to give you a margin of 3 on this to get within it. There was a long touchdown scored by a Miami Hurricane. Can you name him and just how long that touchdown was? The longest touchdown of the game.
Yeah, it was Michael Urban. I'm going to say 79 yards.
No, it was 73 yards, and it was Michael Irvin. So you get half.
And it was the Dion wasn't on him. I'm not going to name the cornerback that was on him, but I'll tell you who wasn't on him. The best cornerback to ever play college football or football in general. So unless you count Travis Hunter. Yeah. So yeah, that was a little disappointing that Dion wasn't there. Steve Walsh threw it. I know that too.
Okay. 1988, two-parter here. How many turnovers did Florida State have in the first half?
4?
They had 2. It was just a pick and a fumble.
Okay.
And then
I know it was 17-0 at half.
Yeah. So the last 3 drives for Florida State ended in interceptions. Can you name the quarterback or quarterbacks who threw the 3 interceptions?
Chip Ferguson, Peter Tom Willis.
Casey Weldon.
Oh, he threw the last one?
Yes.
So I was right on the first 2. I didn't. So Casey got in that game.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah,
all right,
yeah.
Maybe I stopped watching by then.
Yeah.
So he was, because he didn't start until 2 years later, because obviously Chip and Peter Tom were ahead of him. But that's all right. I like that. See, they got him in there. So Mike, get Trevor Jackson in there. Let him get a couple reps on Saturday night.
Here we go. Let's make up some ground here. 5 points on this one. 1989. Can can you vaguely describe the first two plays from scrimmage in the 1989 Florida State-Miami game?
Yeah, Leroy Butler intercepted Gino Torretta, who was starting for Craig Erickson because Craig Erickson was hurt. And then Dexter Carter went, I think, 37 yards for a touchdown run on the second play.
Yeah. 5 points. That's true, everybody.
Edgar Bennett, great block. Great block by Edgar Bennett.
Yeah, way to rally back after the 88. The 88.
That was a tough one, man.
Yeah.
I knew there were a bunch. I didn't know when they happened in the turnovers.
All right, we're going to give you a bonus one here. We'll give you 2 points on this. How many times did Florida State trail at halftime against Miami in the 90s?
Oh, my gosh. 1990, definitely.
Correct.
Not 95, not 96, not 97. Maybe they might have trailed in 99. So 90 definitely. Maybe.
Come on, think.
Maybe 94.
Bang!
Okay.
Give him
was
the
99?
bonus.
What was it at 99?
It was tied.
Okay, yeah, that's right. Yeah, and then they put. Yeah, it was like 21-21 or something. It was a high-scoring half. Santana Moss refused to cover him. He's pretty good, though. I mean, I guess he gets credit for being good, but that was also the first game after the Dillards incident, where Peter Warwick was on the sideline, couldn't play.
It's crazy. Florida State led it, going back to 84, and I didn't go further until past 2001. Florida State led it at half in 84, 85, 86, 87, 89, 91, 93, 95, 96, 97, and 98.
Yeah.
And they didn't win all those. What happened in 1990? I need to ask you that. I don't even remember. The 94 game is bizarre to me, like looking at the final. But we'll talk about it maybe when we get to the 94 game. All right, 1990, Miami wins that one 31-22. Who was the leading wide receiver for Florida State?
Lawrence Dawsey?
Correct.
I want to say it was like he had an incredible – it was like 13 for 180 or something.
Ooh, 13 for 160. But
okay,
in
at least one touchdown, maybe two?
I didn't write that.
Yeah, but he had something. I know he had one touchdown right before half. That was a game they were down. They were down like something crazy, like 24-0. And Miami ran all over them, like over 300 yards. But yeah, Dawsey had an incredible day.
1991, we go to this one. 2 points on this. The final drive for Florida State, they converted a fourth down. Who converted the fourth down?
Edgar Bennett.
Correct.
Yeah.
Bang.
Yep, little fullback dive.
In my notes, I was looking here. So they ended up using like 2 timeouts on that last drive. And I think because I didn't realize, I totally spaced out and forgot about this. The first wide right was a third down they kicked it on.
Buddy, I
love
Bobby Bowden. I love everything he did for my life. A lot of great moments because of that man. End of game. Especially against that team, or maybe in the Orange Bowl in '93, it left you shaking your head. The worst thing they did on that drive is when that drive started, they completed a pass that got them to the 4th and 1. So maybe it was the second down play.
Yeah.
They completed a pass, and they thought the guy got out of bounds. So they're taking their time getting the play call in, thinking the clock had stopped, and it hadn't. So the game clock is still running because the ref had ruled the player in bounds, and they thought he's out of bounds, so probably wasted, I'm going to guess, 18 to 20 seconds. Now, this is a memory of like an 11-year-old, but probably 18 to 20 seconds. And if they had those 18 or 20 seconds back, then they absolutely run a play on that third down, right?
Yeah.
Because you got plenty of time. There's no need to kick it that early. You can actually go try to throw a fade to Terrell to score a touchdown again, but they didn't. Eric Terrell, not Terrell Buckley.
Or if they don't burn their first timeout on a 4th and 6 on it was crazy. They used their first timeout in the second half like way too early, like in the third quarter on a 4th and 6. It was bizarre.
When they had the ball?
I think so, yeah.
Oh,
yeah, after a 1-yard completion. Yeah. All right, we got to go quickly here on this. 92, 5 points on this one. What was the opening score of the 92 game, and what were the last points scored in the 92 game via?
Tamarick Vandover was the opening points on the opening kickoff. He returned it for a touchdown.
Correct.
The last points
1916 final.
Wasn't it a safety?
Yeah, it's correct.
Yeah, Corey Sawyer fumbled the punt at like the 2-yard line, and they recovered it for a safety.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Lamar Thomas had given them the lead he beat Clifton Abraham for a touchdown. And then the Florida State got the ball back after getting a stop, and Corey Sawyer caught it at the 3 and fumbled it, and they recovered it for safety. I guess he must have fumbled it out of bounds or recovered it in the end zone.
I guess
Miami didn't recover
he
it.
retreated to the end zone. Like I think he didn't realize where he was.
Yeah, that's right. Something like that. But he got tackled in the end zone. Somehow it was a safety on a punt, which you don't see a lot.
Nope.
I don't know that I've seen it since.
No. 1993, Florida State finally gets the monkey off their back, 28-10 win over Miami. Two-parter here for your points. Who was the leading rusher and who had the most receptions for Florida State in the 93 game?
I'm going to say Sean Jackson was the leading rusher.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to say, leading receiver.
It's a tricky one.
Is that like receptions or yardage?
Receptions. Most catches.
Okay, I'm going to say then, I'll say Kevin Knox.
It was Tamarick Vanover. He had 7 catches in that game.
Oh, all right, T-Mac. I see. That's a lot. That was a lot for him that year. I know Fryer probably maybe had the most yards or close to it because he had the long touchdown.
94, 3 points. How did Florida State's first drive end? 34-20 win over Miami had in 94. Ugly. Gross.
That's a game I don't remember a ton about. That's like the one. 94 and 95, honestly, are the ones I don't remember the most about. I'm going to assume it ended in a interception.
Correct.
Danny Cannell interception.
That is correct. 3 points, Corey Clark.
There we go. Nailed it.
1995, Danny Cannell throws 3 touchdowns in Florida State's 41-17 win over Miami. Who caught the 3 touchdowns?
Andre Cooper.
And?
Oh, I thought you were saying E.G. Green?
Philip Riley.
Oh, okay, Philip Riley. I see you. Former track star. All right.
We'll give you partial points on that.
Okay, sorry. I thought maybe Andre caught all 3 of them.
Yeah. 1996, Florida State beats Miami 34-16. We're getting comfortable beating these guys. Who scored the first Florida State touchdown?
In 1996. Oh, in 1996. Okay, so that was the Warwick Dunn game. I don't feel like he scored the touchdown, though. I was thinking of 98. So 96. I'm not going to... Thad Busby? Like a QB sneak?
No. You're gonna hate yourself when I tell you that.
Oh, is it... Was it Shevin Smith?
Let's go! Give
right,
the points!
Yeah, defensive touchdown. There you go. Shevin Smith was the man. Former walk-on and was a badass safety.
Yeah. 54-yard fumble recovery. Do you know who caused the fumble?
I do not, no.
Vernon Crawford. Just want to keep his name out there.
Crawford. All right. I know he's number 47. That's all I can remember about Vernon.
1997, 2 points. Florida State, biggest win in even bigger than the win in 2022. 47-0 over Miami. They're in the throes of probation hell. True or false? Sebastian Janikowski missed a PAT in this game.
I'm going to say true.
Oh, I tripped you
up. Is that
up.
false?
It's false. Bill Grammatica did, though.
Oh, okay. There you go. But Grammatica was still kicking?
Bill Grammatica. I think that's when he lost it. Like, he kicked the first
That was
PAT.
the last one. It was ridiculous that he was kicking it all. They're like, Janikowski's the kickoff guy and the long field goal guy. It's like, how about you make him every kick guy? Because he's awesome. Yeah. They were rotating kickers. But yeah, okay, that makes sense. Because that was kind of, I feel like that was middle of the year. I thought he had already lost his job to Janikowski. Interesting fact, Janikowski did miss a PAT in the national championship game against Tennessee.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and that's why he had 16 and 17.
Okay. 2 more. 98, 4 points up for grabs here. Florida State beats Miami 26-14. We've got a streak going on. It's pretty cool. Florida State had 7 sacks from 5 different players. Can you name 3 of the 5 players who had the 7 sacks for Florida State?
And this was 1998.
1998. 5 players.
I'm going to guess. I'm trying. Roland Seymour?
That's 1. He had 2, actually.
Okay. I'm trying to think of who the linebacker would have been that they brought on a blitz, but I can't. That's not coming to mind. Wadsworth was already gone. This might stump me. Corey Simon?
Nope.
Jerry Johnson?
No.
Okay, I was trying to go with the defensive
I'll give you one more strike.
Yeah, that's right. That's fair. Yeah. David Warren?
No.
Sorry.
No. Bobby Rhodes, Brian Allen.
Okay, Brian Allen is somebody. Tommy Polly, maybe?
Jamal Reynolds.
Get it together, Clark.
And Tony Bryant had 2 as well.
Yeah.
Along with Roland Seaman.
That's ridiculous. That should have known. Tony Bryant played in the league for a good while, and Jamal Reynolds was a top 10 pick. That's the only. I'll be honest with you, Aslan. Out of all these questions, that's the one I feel. That's the only one I really feel bad about.
Okay,
honestly.
Yeah. Listen, I was running out of ways to try to confuse you. All right, 1999, Florida State beats Miami again.
Yeah.
My gosh. Like, the decade didn't start off great, but, man, it was awesome towards the end of it. 31-21. Who was the leading rusher and receiver for Florida State? And this isn't too – I mean, the leading receiver he led the team in receptions and yardage.
Well, Travis Minor.
Correct.
For rushing. Receiving without Peter Warwick, I would guess Dugans.
Correct. He gets it, everybody.
And I'm pretty sure Jermaine Stringer had a touchdown catch in that game.
He did.
Georgia
Correct.
native, like a long one, like a 50-yarder or something.
48 yards. Let's go.
And he didn't do a lot football-wise. He was another track guy that didn't have a lot of big-time moments, but that was a very memorable play for Jermaine Stringer.
Yeah.
And honestly, Chris Winkie was so good in that game, and he was almost like you got to see how good Chris Winkie was without Peter Warwick, because it's like, okay, he doesn't have to force the ball to this one guy. He's just going to throw to whoever's open, and he lit Miami up. Well, and he did it the next year, too, where he threw for 500 yards and they lost.
Yeah. All right, there we go. Hopefully that was fun for you folks to listen. Hopefully, Corey, that was a little bit intellectually stimulating for you.
I'm sweating. I didn't like that, Aslan. You sprung that on me. I should have just been cheating the whole time.
Hey, you said on the show yesterday, like, we didn't want to. There wasn't a lot to talk about when it came to this Miami game. I tried to get Marvin Jones to hop on the show, but couldn't.
That would have been nice. Yeah.
Time. So there we go. I don't think we'll have to do that for Florida. I think we'll have a legitimate.
I think there'll be some stuff to talk about, and it'll be the week of probably some pretty significant coaching changes after the game.
Yeah. All right, we're done. We're going to go to practice, everybody, so look for observations, possibly practice footage, as well as interviews after the practice. Warchant report probably dropping later in the week. Obviously, coach speak. We'll be down in Miami. Live show, Corey, tonight, 6?
Let's do it, buddy.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Let's do that. We'll do a live show as well, and then we'll do a mailbag at the end of the week. Thanks for listening, everybody. He's Corey. I'm Aslan. It's been Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy.